Hello there, good evening. Welcome to yet another episode of Youth Dialogue. It's always good to be back, and the year is ending now. And looking back at the past episodes, I feel that as a team, we've done a lot. It's not just me. You just see me sitting in front of you presenting the program, but at the end of the day, it's about the guests who come on here to have discussions with me, the camera operators, the editors, everyone. So it's a whole team working tirelessly to make sure that weekly we bring you a fresh episode. And like I always say, consistency throughout the year. I've seen that and a lot more. But every year we do a year in review, just to sit down with someone, chat about some of the things that we've achieved, some of the improvements that we need to make as a program, and just, adding so much onto it. Because when it comes to young people, I just feel like there's a lot I can do. And joining me to achieve this today is Mar Nyang. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always good to have you.
It's a pleasure, Jay. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, and we are right here in Bamboo Hotel. So I just felt like I want to give it a little bit of different touch, just to have an outdoor program and just, feel relaxed. The studio is a bit tight, Let's just get outside, feel relaxed, and have like an honest conversation when it comes to youth dialogue. And really, Mar, I put it up on my status and I had few suggestions that they want to see you. Probably it's because of how diverse you are in relation to issues. So we'll be just giving you different clips of episodes that we've done previously. So we are starting with women in solar installation, such a male-dominated field. So let's take a look at that. And when we come back, Mar is here to just have a discussion with me in relation to how we can just improve women venturing into STEM and other male-dominated fields. So we'll be right back. Yeah, so I'm right here with Sira. Sira, I'm so excited to meet you and have a conversation with you about solar installation. How do you feel?
Anyway, I feel happy.
Yeah.
And I can see that it's a skill which that can motivate other females around the world if they see us working. So I'm really happy to be a solar technician.
Oh, amazing. So why did you become a solar technician? How did that, journey happen? Because how did this journey start, I can say? Because like I always say, I sing this over and over and over again. The fact that it's a male-dominated field, the discrimination, family will say, oh, you're not supposed to do this, how the public sees you. And with all of that, you're able to overcome it. And here you are doing this. Take us through that.
Okay. The time we started this solar installation, because the time these people come, people from Bolo, they come to Action Aid. Though we know it through Action Aid, they call us and tell us that by then I was a ARI facilitator.
Okay.
So they said that our program we are going to phase out now, but there is another program that comes in that is solar installation. They are there to empower women. So we all said, wow, it's amusing because it's the first time to see such kind of things women are involved in.
Yeah.
So when we go back to our family, we tell them that, to my family, I told my family that anyway, there is another project that is coming that is funded by EU for solar installation, but they are going to empower women. But they tell me that how do you
that was the
expect
question, right?
you can do it?
Yeah.
I tell them, if you see these people bring this, they know that we can do it. And we are all females. And now in the world, we believe in that what man can do, a woman can do so. So my parents, for the first time, they were somehow having skeptical mind about it.
Yeah.
But later I convinced them. I tell them that I'm not the only female child who is going there. We have many of our partners who are going there, so I think it's better I join them and go. So this is how I go, but I know it through Action Aid, and we realized that later it was funded by EU.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, so Sira, you talked about the fact that you were able to convince your parents. Can you tell me how you were able to do that? What did you tell them? Yeah, I know you told them there are other females doing it, but I know there's a special way that you were able to push them to the corner to make sure that they agree with this.
Anyway, my parents for the first time, they were even told me that if you are married, hope your husband will allow you to do it.
Yes.
I told them no, my husband will allow me because in the world where we are, people are going for skills and skills is a fast money.
Yeah.
And remember, if you are doing skills, you can earn money any now and then. It's better than saying that I'll wait for monthly salary, because sometimes in your skill, what you can get in a day sometimes can pay others. So later on, my dad realized, I told them that look at some of these female tailors. They buy clothes for themselves, sew it for themselves without their husband. So if I'm also became a technician, I can wear my house, wear your house, and my husband can be free from such kind of things.
Yeah, you can simply share together. You can simply fund things together. So I think it's a great mindset. So Sira, are you telling us that solar installation can pay the bills? There's money, it can pay the bills?
Yes, it can pay.
Okay, it can pay?
Yeah.
Very, very well.
Yeah, very, very well.
Okay, amazing. I'm happy that it's able to pay the bills. So how do you juggle it? How do you juggle this, the solar installation and work and all of that? Are you married?
I'm not married, I'm
Yet,
single.
you're single, but how are you able to manage it with household chores, with family and all of that? Because I know it can be time consuming sometimes.
Yeah, like for the family, to them they were not having later on no problem about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so long also, you have given us helping hand.
Yeah.
We didn't pay it by ourselves.
Okay.
It's you who pay it for us. So our family, they were fine and okay with it.
Welcome back from that break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV Youth Dialogue, and it's a week in, it's a year in review. It's a whole year in review here with Mad Nyang. So Mad, you've seen that ActionAid has supported in that video women to just get into solar installation. But just putting aside the support that ActionAid has provided, from the years, you know, since the regime of President Adama Barrow, I have seen some improvements with women venturing into male-dominated fields. I don't know if this is in relation to projects that are coming up or what. So what do you think?
Well, I think it is impressive that civil society actually, or should I say NGOs, takes up that initiative by not only giving them a source of income, but the capacity, because those women were first trained how to do solar installation, and it's like the NGOs has given them or shown them how to fish, make their own money, cook their own fish, and then consume the fish that they have actually fished by themselves. So I think it is impressive, and also I have to really acknowledge the change in dynamics in this country. Then women used to shy away from this kind of initiative. They think it is a male profession, but now we've seen not only into women getting into solar installation, but even masonry work, and then also carpentry work, and then engineering and all that stuff. So I think it is impressive, and I think we need to build on that. Though government is doing its part in supporting women, we've now seen the NGOs also stepping in, giving a source of income, giving capacity, giving skills to women that they could use to actually make a living. Because if you empower women, you've empowered the whole nation, because they're going to be the one producing children of the country. And if they are already equipped and they have those sources of income to support themselves and their family and then that of their offspring, then you're going to have a developed nation. So I think that is impressive.
And Mar, the beautiful part in relation to that particular episode is some of them even have children. Some of them, decided to carry their children with them to the field to work. That just shows you extra that these women are ready to push.
Definitely. And then for me, what stood out to me is that one of the worker actually said, she does not have to wait for a month to get a salary. She can actually, with the skill, you can frequently get money if you are given this kind of contract. So, getting some source of income in the 10th day of the month, the 5th day of the month, based on the contract that you have, I think that's really something that we need to really nurture and then build up. So I think it is impressive. Now we need to just look at the areas. We don't just equip them, but the government also needs to factor in. I know they started doing that, just like that of the OIC roads. We've seen women also getting into it, doing some male-dominated work. But I think now also, since the capacity is there, now the government also needs to come up with a public policy so that when this kind of contracts are there, they factor in a policy that will make so that a percentage of women are given that particular priority. Local women are given that priority for them to be able to work and then also make money out of it. So I think really that's the way forward, because if you develop the people, you've developed the whole nation, and the economy really have to circulate within. And the best way to do it is to equip our people.
I totally agree with that. I always talk about this, and when I say it, people laugh. I tell them at some point I'm going to leave journalism for business. You know, business is the way forward. You know, you have to have something that is your own, something, you know, where you can just sleep today and today you decide to work and you get the money. You know, in that way, actually, you're more independent. And also, I've seen that NEDI has launched this grant that they have for the first time coming from government coffers, which I think is really good as well.
Yeah, I think these are the things that we need to see, and then also from the private sector as well.
Yeah.
They also need to explore these opportunities, and then start limiting those challenges that limit women into this field, not only in this informal sector, but also in the formal sector as well. There are certain provisions that limit women's effectiveness in certain areas, especially when they conceive. Some of them will actually opt whether to continue the job or to leave it because of the working condition that is there. So I think, as our democracy is building up, getting stronger by the day, now we also need, we've collectively the country have done well in coming this far in terms of building our democracy, but now we need to look at our economy. And I think that's one of the biggest challenge that we have right now. Once we build that, and it requires a systematic approach in building an economy. How do you build up an economy so that it is decentralized in a sense that the cake that is the economic cake that is there, each and every single person based on their capacity have a share of that particular cake. So I think those are the things that we need to look at. And I mean, Senegal are doing it, Nigeria are doing it, and I believe once we establish that, then the country as a state would be in a better financial position in terms of individually, should I say, independently building up the economy of individual households.
Yes, so moving on, you already touched on governance already. So up next, what we are still on ActionAid actually, just appreciating our partnership with them because they've been quite supportive throughout year 2021. Hopefully they will continue their partnership with us come 2022. So another thing that we were looking at now has to do with youth in politics, and obviously the mayoral election as well as ward councillor and chairmanship is on its way. So it is important that we discuss the way forward when it comes to the effective participation of young people in politics. But meanwhile, let's take a look at this, and when we come back, we'll have the discussion. This particular project obviously is under ActionAid, but conceived and being implemented by activists to the Gambia. So thank you so much for joining us, Alaji.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me.
Yeah, so talk to us about how this particular project came about. You know, is it based on the fact that the December 4th election is around the corner and it is important that they have conversations as such, or is it just necessary to have this conversation putting December 4th aside?
Yeah, it is necessary to have this kind of conversation putting December 4th aside. I mean, the project was conceived as a result of the change that we have realized as Gambian in 2016. And part of the process and effort to consolidate that change we felt it was necessary to do to build on the civic education that has already been started, and to ensure that Gambian in general understand their rights and duties as citizens, and can recognize right violation where it happens and can know where to seek redress. And beyond that also, we wanted to see an improved participation in the governance at both national and local level by citizens. And to do that, we needed to also make sure the citizens understand what are the levels through which they can participate in decision making and how. And beyond that also, we wanted to also make sure or facilitate the interaction between elected representative and the electorate. And that is why we also have some kind of citizen platform where you have elected representative come have a dialogue with citizens, so that citizens can give feedback on the actions and inactions of the elected representatives.
Okay, so I don't know, I just want to understand how you came to the conclusion in relation to organizing this, because you know, Gambia here, at some point, everyone is part of a particular political party.
Yeah.
I know it must have been hard to really bring these people together.
Yeah.
You know, some of these people are for GDC, some of these people are for NPP. So how did you manage, you know, to make sure that these people gather here despite party affiliation? Because it is also important to know that.
Yeah. First, when we send out the message, particularly to the people that we wanted them to come, so that we have this kind of conversation, what we do tell them is we're bringing your elected representatives. I mean, for example, we have 2 of the National Assembly members here from the Nyaminas, and of course, the one is just the recently elected one from the NPP party, and then the one from the GDC party. And often the councillors, they come from different parties. Yeah. But what we make the Gambian people, or people that come here to attend, is we are having your National Assembly representative here. Because regardless of this, the political parties these people represent or stand under to campaign for the National Assembly election, once they won, they kind of represent, not they kind of, they actually represent the constituency and the nation at large. So basically, when we call people, that's what we do. And when we identify people from the communities to also come and attend this, we inform them that this was the intention and the objective of the meeting, and this is the basis through which their communities are identified to come and participate, because they are part of the constituencies from which these particular National Assembly members are selected. Yeah. So basically, it is their own representatives. So it doesn't matter which party they come from, and even the members, it doesn't matter which party they come from. And that is why in the dialogue we tell them, look at them as your representative, don't look at them that they are elected from this political party.
So I know this particular town hall meeting is not specifically targeting young people, because as you can see, it's a combination of young people, men and women. But at least we know that there are 20 young people here from different areas. So it is important we also highlight the fact that this year, when it comes to the voter registration, young people came out in their numbers to register. When I saw the figures, I was quite elated. So what does this mean for Gambia and for Gambian youth, and for the work that youth organizations have been doing prior to this?
I mean, it means a lot. I mean, because what happened is usually we just use anecdotal evidence to say that what we have done has improved young people's political participation. And for example, the express satisfaction or demonstration of learning something that we receive having engaged young people. But what the statistic produced by IEC did was to actually give us concrete evidence that the actions that we've been taking, the sensitization that we've been taking to encourage young people to go out and register, to encourage young people to participate in the political processes, has actually shown some kind of dividend. I mean, having more than 50% of the registered voters as young people actually speak volume of what we've done. I mean, look at, for example, as soon as we see this, we kind of look back into our Rock the Vote concert, and we are like, somehow we've really seen people during that period.
Where you had to get a card to be able to actually attend it. So music is doing it for us then.
Yeah, I mean, advocacy, and then, you have to leverage on all the platforms that you can. And for us, we think the pop artists in this country have a lot of influence, and sometimes we need to leverage on their platform to also be able to sell the agenda of young people participating in politics. So it's a matter of how do we kind of improve the agency of young people, what are the platforms that we can leverage on. So we try to kind of figure this out, and what if you observe in our communities, you can organize community sensitization, you can organize town hall meetings, you can organize workshops, but there's always a certain category of people that will always be left out. And perhaps some of those kind of platforms are the only way you can get them involved in some sort of this kind of civic education and get their attention to kind of carry out a particular message. So we felt doing this have actually been pretty much impactful. And so we hope getting them registered was one step. And then the next step is now also getting them actually out there to go and vote. And we hope that also when the elections come December 4th, we'll have more than 50% of the young people, of the voters, coming from young people.
Welcome back from that break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV Youth Dialogue, and I'm here with the dynamic Marinyang, closing the year, chapter 2021 on Youth Dialogue. And like I mentioned, what can we do now? You know, the presidential election is gone. what can we do? The Not Too Young to Lead was launched, I can remember, when in relation to last time's elections. And now moving forward, what can we do to ensure that more young people are in these key positions, especially when it comes to legislation, the parliament? What can we do?
I think this time around we have to be very careful. In 2017, I was a team member of the Not Too Young to Run, and we were campaigning for certain young people to get into parliament, and then handful number of those got elected. But to our disappointment, at the end of the day, when we needed them the most, especially during the passing of the draft constitution, these people that we have been pushing for were nowhere to be found, and they actually did not support what the young people that have been advocating for them to be elected wanted. So now, coming to this parliamentary election and that of the local government election, we still need more young people, irrespective of their political background, to be in the parliament. But we also need to be choosy in terms of identifying the good ones. I believe in 2017, we are too excited that we are not looking at the capacity and the know-how of that particular individual that we are advocating for. We just want the young people in without knowing whether they are capable of doing that. So this time around, I think that's one thing that we need to avoid. Vet, and then if the qualified youths are there that are eligible for this particular position, we can take them over. Like I said, we're going to be independent and apolitical in the way we do it, irrespective of their political background. In 2017, we had those from APRC, those from UDP, those from it was the UDP, including Barrow's administration
GDC
as well.
as
Yes,
well.
GDC as well, exactly. So we were a bit, shall I say, it was challenging, but I think the takeaway is that at least we got 5 to 6
people
that got elected. So going down to the parliamentary elections and then that of the local government elections as well, that's one thing that we need to, because if you have this coordinated effort and then get young people in the parliament, then you are building up a system whereby when in terms of sound public policy advocacy, these folks that are there knows where you're exactly, and they will know where you're coming from, and then if it is something that is worth
Mark, when these young people come in, they're from political parties, and most of the time they are dictated by their party agenda instead of probably, let's say, the general agenda of young people. So how can we ensure they come together? That's the question. Because when they get in there, they are on their separate ways.
Well, yeah, that is the, how to call it, the cons of politics and these individuals. So many competent individuals you tend to see, the moment they get into this institution called politics, right? They start building up certain colors. Yes. So sometimes there's what we call conflict of interest in weighing the interests of their political party and the interests of the general public. And sometimes we've seen that the interests of their political party subdue that of the general interest, which is really unethical. But I think, like I said, coming to this parliamentary election, this is one of the things I realized in 2017. Sanjay was one of those that was actually training these folks about parliament, the work of parliament, and when going out how to campaign, not telling them that I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give that. So those were the things that but now we need to look at, we need to go back, have our own retreat, and then be strategic in terms of identifying, because when we identify maybe perhaps someone else that is really credible, that we are sure that we can depend on this particular person, we can push it ahead, and then keep reminding them. But also, I think also what we have not done well since these people came into parliament, there has not been constant communication between us and these people. So I believe that loss of communication also, the political party defeated us on that, and I think that's one of the things that we need to do.
Anyway, we have the Youth Inter-Party Committee, so I feel like as long as there's a Youth Inter-Party Committee, it should be structured. I can remember there was a program that was organized for the Youth Inter-Party Committee, and at the end of the day, it did not even happen because they did not have proper structures of country, which was not a good sign. This is not the first time I'm talking about it. So for me, as long as we have a Youth Inter-Party Committee, at least that can be used as a foundation to just recruit young politicians. It can be some sort of a little academy where just all these political parties come together and put parties aside, and it's just young people and just plan on what to do. So I just feel like that needs to be worked on, and the moment that is done, then we can move. And also trying to have more women. What can we do to bring in also more women for these parliamentary elections? More young women I'm talking about specifically. That is also a challenge.
First thing, we need to push out the interest there so that women can actually come up and then run for these elective positions. The political parties have been lip syncing about this, that they do women empowerment or that, but we hardly see them choosing females to take leadership positions or actually elective positions. So that has to change, and I believe if the political parties are not giving them that opportunity, then women need to also sit, and then I know there are some bills that they are advocating for, so that, and then I know also in the draft constitution it actually gives certain provisions so that political parties or should I say the National Assembly can have some seats that are reserved for women and then persons with disability. So at party level, they also need to start building up that structure to make sure that during parliamentary election, certain percentage of women capable are actually identified to run for certain constituencies, and the same thing applies towards and mayoral elections as well. So I think those are the things that
needs to change.
Exactly. And we also need to do better. We need to do more in advocating for such. So I believe once that is there, then we will have sound women that will get into parliament.
Anyway, good luck, and I'll follow the work. I'll follow the progress as a team, CSOs, just to see how you'll be able to support young people this time to actually take the rightful positions, and also, like you mentioned, putting in the right people. When it comes to the general interest of young people, they get to put party aside. I know we all of you come from political parties, but at the end of the day, it has to do with coordination as young people for the interest of young people. It is important that we get to do those things. So what we are about to take a look at now has directly to do with the work of Marnyang, because Gambia Participates has directly supported these young girls into robotics. So we will just take a look at their activities in robotics. I was so impressed with the team, and thank you so much to Gambia Participates for grooming and just taking care of everything for them. So we'll just take a look at that, and when we come back, Mar will tell us future plans to further help young girls get into robotics. So today we'll be discussing your journey being part of the Hackathon Girls and the preparation as well when it comes to this particular competition. I know you're both science students, so please, when it comes to being shy and the science student kind of suit, please hang it somewhere, because we're about to have a serious conversation, a fun conversation about this. So first of all, Jainaba, I'll start with you. Just talk to me about how you realized that you had talent for this, because in as much as robotics is something that you need to learn, and get to learn all the basics and understand how to do it, there's talent as well in there. So how did you realize it, and how has the journey been so far?
I realized it during the COVID period, because while we were at home, there are certain programs going on, like you had introduction to HTML and CSS, that is for coding class. So when I joined that class, I got a link to the Hackathon Girls class, to the organization, and that is where I got to really realize my talent in computer science and computer engineering. And it has been a wonderful journey so far, because I'm happy to say that now I'm very well established in robotics stuff, and it's wonderful, really.
Right.
Dealing with robots is great.
It's great.
Yes.
And she's, she's good at robotic stuff. I like the confidence. So Miminata, you too, is it the pandemic? Is it the same story, or you have a different story in relation to how you realize this is something you can do?
Well, mine is quite different.
Okay.
It would be dated back to 2018, when my school invited me to attend a Girls in ICT Commemoration Day. At that commemoration place, I met lots of girls there who were dealing with robotics, and then they were certified with this robotics issue. And that is where I met the founder of Mozilla Club of Hackathon Girls, Mrs. Juma Balde, and she inspired me. That made me go to Facebook. I created a Facebook account, went to Facebook, looked for the Mozilla Club of Hackathon Girls, and then had their email, messaged them, and that was how I became a member of this Mozilla Club of Hackathon Girls.
So how has been the journey being a member of this? You're really passionate about this. I can see that.
Of course.
With the way you're explaining to me that Juma. So shout out to Juma. I can see that she's inspired a lot of other girls to do this. So shout out to her and keep up the good work.
Well, actually, the process was also really long. Before getting her email and everything, like the conversations. It was until last year that we had a very fruitful conversation.
Okay.
So before I became a member of the Mozilla Club of Acting Girls, we had regular interviews on phone. And then when she realized that I was really passionate to be a Mozillian, she made me a member of their club, and then had programs like the HTML and CSS online virtual course that we did.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say H what? Because I don't understand that language, to be honest. You said H what?
It's HTML
Okay.
and CSS, hypertext markup language,
Okay.
and cascading style sheets. It's used for web programming.
Okay. Now I understand. It's used for web programming, right? Now I know, because that's not a language that I speak. Welcome back from that break. If you're just tuning in and you're watching QTV Youth Dialogue, and that video had to do with young girls into robotics, and it's really good to know that Gambia Participates supported them. And hey, I know the work of Gambia Participates directly does not have to do with young girls into robotics. So how did you manage, right, to kind of divert and support them? You know, how did that come about? How did you come to step in?
Like if you know the work we do, apart from advocating for governance, we also advocate what we call e-governance, right? That also increases transparency in the transit of government affairs. And then also, in 2018, you were the first person that interviewed us when we come up with the Marble app, right? Incorporating technology in the work that we do. And it was the same 2018 when we worked with the first global competition, FGC, to identify a team in the Gambia. So this competition has been happening in more than 150 countries. So when they reach out, we mobilize. I am not so I say a software engineer, but with the love that I have in technology, when they reach out, I went to Gambia High School. There was a domestic, or a national robotics competition that was held, I believe, in 2017 or 2018. Gambia High ended up being the winner of that particular competition. So I worked with those students, with their mentor, who was also a teacher. So we took these kids to Mexico, and this was our first experience internationally. And then we did not do well, but I mean, there was so many capacity that was built from it. So in 2019, we improved by some points in Dubai, and then when we came back, 2020, COVID-19 actually came. And now they're doing this online competition, and since then they've been doing extremely well. In this year, they actually started late, but they did. But also need to acknowledge the support that is also coming from Juma's organization, Mozilla Hackathon. Juma.
Oh, Juma. Okay, the hackathon girls.
Exactly. So
the hackathon girls.
They also have been support, because it's a collaborative effort. We do the facilitation, they bring up the technicalities that is involved in this. So the kids are also really amazing, because personally, when I started working with them, realizing what they are capable of doing with coding, and then also building a robot to be able to conduct certain functions, I think this is something else that we need, and it shows that we have future engineers. Once we nurture this, once the government comes, the Minister of Higher Education, if they come up with such policies and they start encouraging it, and they also bring in parts, robotics parts, and then encouraging this kind of competition, you will see the interest of STEM will go to a high heights. And then in the next 10, 20 years, you will get to see certain engineering work that is being done here. It's going to be simplified by the technical solutions that these kids are going to come up with.
They're amazing.
So,
they're so smart.
Yeah, at the tender age, you can see what they're able to achieve.
Mar, I know me and you were not as smart as they are at their age. I'm 100% sure. They are amazing. I love them. And it's the fact that it's an all-girls team. You know, I don't know if that is deliberate to have an all-girls team, but it is a brilliant idea. I just feel like, some of their colleagues will be so impressed with the work that they're doing. And I'm so happy to know that they did so well when it comes to their grade 12 exams. All of them did so well. I saw their results online. It was amazing. So the moment we just follow up on these young girls and just push them, I just feel like the future is so bright.
Definitely. And then this is where all the developed countries are at age. Against us, because they have what they call out-of-school program, extracurricular activities. And I think this is one of those that actually helps kids to be able to have hands-on deck experience of what they are learning in class. We know in our science labs or in a science school, students lack the materials for them to be able to experience what they see in theory.
Yeah.
So when we get these extracurricular activities or out of school programs, then they were able to know the theory and doing the practice at the same time. It's actually going to help them have these two combined for them to be smarter than just focusing on the theory. So I think this has to be nurtured, it has to be built up, and then we're still looking forward to
other competitions.
Exactly, and then take these kids so that, because they also love this, they want it. I mean,
I can see it in
doing
their
this
eyes.
voluntarily and then coming to the office, they will come to my office and they start doing this practice. All the way, I normally leave my office late, but sometimes they also sit there without with all the challenges. You can hear one of the students, I believe, Muminatu, saying that sometimes the parents call them and say, where are you and all that.
Yeah.
So I also believe those are the things that we need to also talk to the parents so that they get to understand. Because it also was challenging for us taking kids in Mexico in 2018, because I can believe one of the guy actually started crying because the uncle didn't want him to go. So I think we need to have this frank conversation so that because their kids are capable of doing so many amazing stuff.
But they don't have the chance.
They have to be supported.
Yeah, well, I went through the same thing as well. You know, as a child growing up, I did not have the opportunity to be part of any, group, and that. I look at my friends sometimes who had the opportunity to, and you can see how they're a little bit an edge above because they started these things when they were younger. I had very strict parents, so you can't even be part of any form of association, and that really affected me. So I just feel like because I've gone through it, I'm just calling on parents to be more open with their kids. It is important to just allow them to just explore their talent. There's nothing basically wrong with it. So due to time constraints, we will just rush to the next one, which has to do with sexual and gender-based violence. I sat down with Mamadou Davis. You know how Davis is. Muy tigal guy. Mane ko ne he for she amut. Mune ma he for she amna. Mane ko ñu ne amu de yenay perpetrator si. So ñu ne yen do len he for she. But anyway, he's saying it's very genuine, and there are a lot of other young men here who are very genuine in relation to their fight in relation to sexual and gender-based violence. So let's take a look at that, and we'll be right back. Tell us what the law says, first of all, because whatever you do, you have to base it on law. It is based on law that all these activists are out there on a daily basis fighting for the rights of women when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence. So first of all, just to lay the foundation, what does the law say in relation to sexual and gender-based violence?
Thank you very much for that question. And before I talk about that, I would just briefly want to give about my workplace flag, the association I work with.
Sure. Probably we can do that at the end before we close.
Very well.
Yes.
In the first of all, sexual and gender-based violence is said to be any form of violence or any act that is inflicted or perpetrated on another person on the basis of gender differences, based on perhaps norms and values, or on the basis of power inequality. In the Gambia, we have gender-based violence in its context is very broad. So we have different categories of gender-based violence. We have what we call physical violence. Physical violence is the form of violence where like a person attacks another person on the basis of gender differences or on the basis of power inequality. Like when I slap a person or when I kill another person with or without weapon is a form of physical violence, and it is against our laws. We have laid down laws which I will talk about later during the course of the discussions. Aside from that, we also have what we call sexual violence. Sexual violence is any form of violence, like in our Sexual Offences Act, it talks about or addresses sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, sexual abuse, which also involves rape. It is said that any form of sexual violence is actually prohibited in our laws. Like sexual violence can come in where the use of force, because when you approach a person in order to satisfy your sexual desires, if a person says no, no is no. If you use any kind of force just to satisfy your sexual desires without the consent of that person, consent is very important when it comes to sex. Without the consent of that person, so you may be liable to sexual violence.
Okay, so Aissatou, comme tay góor gis jigéen muy dox mu ne ko diw, all of those things.
Catcalling.
Thank you very much. Catcalling. Are those things also classified?
It's a form of sexual harassment.
Okay.
Yes. Even like just seeing a person walking
it's a form of sexual harassment.
Harassment.
Perhaps you're doing it, I don't like it, so it's a form of sexual harassment and it's against our laws.
Okay. Góor waat ma laajte la waat mun naa nekk he for she parce que gis nañ ne yéen sometimes ngeen nekk he for she sa ëlbatiku waat nekk leneen.
No, without an iota of doubt, of course, góor mun naa nekk he for she. Lu important mooy liggéey bi nga def ak ndax gom nga ko. I keep saying this and I said this in our last program. Ma ne pour man góor yi nekkuñ problème wala jigéen yi nekkuñ problème. Pour man the problem is patriarchy. Patriarchy góor yi ak jigéen yi yëpp dañ ko dee mun a advance dañ ko dee mun a entrench. Lu mu wax si gender based violence just to give a little bit of context. Gender is the socially ascribed rules given to people. Because yow góor nga war a jigéen nga. As a góor ni nga war a doxalee wala as a jigéen ni nga war a acté wala doxalee noonu. Loolu mooy gender. Ba pare soo ñëwee nga xool violence, it's the intentional use of power or position with the aim of inflicting pain on another person. Doole la nga jël sa doole mbaa sa place pour métital wala toroxal keneen. Because yow maybe yaay papi xale bi xam nga ne yow papi xale bi doole wala yow teacher nga xam nga ne yow xale bi doole nga jaay ko doole mbaa jigéen bi pour lor ko. Loolu mooy let's say gender based violence. It's perpetrated on a person on the basis of his or her gender. Times without number man I do trainings on GBV. Man am ay góor ñu dee ñëw si man. Dañ ma dee explain na lu leen seen jabar yi dee def si biir kër yi.
So da nga bëgg a wax ne nekkul jigéen ñi rek lañ dee abuse góor ñi dañ leen dee abuse tam.
You see ëpp doole góor yi ñoo ko dee teg jigéen ñi. waaye jigéen ñi
nañ wax te mu leer.
Of course jigéen waaye jigéen dañ dee sexually abuse góor yi. dañ doon wax harassment. Sexual harassment is any unwanted sexual advance or advances. Maa ngi romba man góor yi maa ngi enu weñ maa ngi ponkal maybe maa ngi am chest. Nga naa ma waaye sa abs yi nii ñëw laal sama abs yi laal sama chest bi yow yaa ngi am sexual gratification.
Davis waxi loolu teguñu fi de.
Loolu what is it true?
teguñu fi nag ay sadu nañ ko wax dem leer si beginning wax yooyu teguñu fi. ñun daal fi mu ne nii. jigéen yi métti yu ñu leen di teg. because nañ nangu ne jigéen yaa gën a vulnerable.
I agree.
wax boobu ñu fi teg.
Men are the biggest perpetrators of sexual and gender based violence.
Wow.
And the biggest victims are women and girls.
Exactly.
But so you want to an honest conversation.
Wow.
Because there's no way we can end SGBV without having an honest conversation.
Okay.
But you see, bare goria ko de tek jigeni. Because we bare they fuck ne come it's normal. Jigen mu romba nga xol ko ko yena façon kadu yi. Jigen mu romba nga laal jaramam bi daf de am. Comme lu mu wax rek so xolé let's say sexual violence. Amna buñ de oye quid pro quo as a form of sexual harassment where people would exchange sex for grades. Ñu bari defo dafa normal. Yaa ngi university bi, yaa ngi high school wala junior school, so lecturer bi mëna la kay ñu tedda ma jox la 100 in maths or English daf day am. Waaye dafa wax lu important muy consent. Consent is beyond saying yes I want to do this. Consent is about understanding the aftermath of saying yes I want to do this.
Okay. So welcome back from that video. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV Youth Dialogue and we are doing a year in review and I'm here with Mar Nyang discussing all of the interesting episodes that we've had in 2021. So sexual and gender-based violence. Are you a he for she?
Oh, I'm on the fence. I support both male and female.
Yes, that makes you a he for she then.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a bit conservative, but I support, what is going on, especially in this advocacy of gender-based violence. I think it's really primitive and outdated that in this generation that we are, we still continue to see that. And one more disgusting thing that we see is an elderly person, so like a pedophile, doing all this crazy stuff, and society
is sitting there doing nothing.
And you get to see what happened, and then in the waxtani boka.
Wow.
I don't think there's any.
So you police bi ñu ne ali doomam kii la dinañ ko noba dinañ def si ronde.
I don't think there should be any waxtani boka. The adult grown up, you know what you ought to do when you get to that level. Go get married. And leave kids alone. Let them explore. And then most of these kids, when they're exposed to such, it actually traumatizes them growing up. Every time you will see people sitting down crying, not telling you what makes them cry.
But maar li nga xamut mooy Gambia bi fii man dama gis ne nit ñi understand rape lan la. Because man dama dee ne sa rape yow soo demee halfway sa nit na la no. No means no. Dem nga halfway laa la wax de in whatever that you're doing. Halfway. Or you're almost there, and the person says no, it means no, danga wara stop. If you go ahead, lolu rape la.
Definitely. and it comes in different forms. Yenn saa nga gis ko, it might not be sometimes the sexual intercourse, but even
sexual harassment in workplaces.
Definitely.
You know?
So I think these things are really disgusting to me, and it does not really make sense. And I think our laws have to be really stringent and start setting examples, because if you wanted to advocate for these issues, and we always identify perpetrators and they go scot-free in our town, then it will continue to happen.
Yeah.
And for me, what really is stressful is these kids that go through it, it never rubs up in their mind.
No.
They grow up with
die
it.
with that.
They grow up with it. They live in that stress with it, and sometimes they do certain things based on what
experiences that they've had, or becoming sex addicts.
So
all of those things.
Definitely, and I think it's all result to one crazy thing that has been happening. So I think we really need to stand up for it.
Yeah.
One thing that I mean, there was a time, and this is really, I don't know if it is seriously funny, but I came across a person when we were having this discussion. He told me when he was a kid, he was also raped. I tried to process that, and he explained to me exactly how it happened. And to a time that, because he was a child, when the time comes, he would tell he will go to actually the place, because there's something for him that is being given by a particular. So those things I was processing, and I thought this was only affecting girls.
No.
But
it's happening. Man, I have people tell me this. Man, dama go through it. And when those people grow older, all the sex addicts in town, and what is funny is sexual and gender-based violence is a chain.
Yeah.
If you were violated as a young boy, it just continues. You feel like it's the right thing, because so generally, I think that is why on Youth Dialogue, Mar, while I was looking at our episodes, I have seen that as a program, we are so committed to women's issues. Throughout the programs that I've seen, one way or the other, I've tried by all means to bring in the issue of women, because li nekut lo xamne dafa jeex ci benn bés, comme Mr. Mbodj num ko de waxe ñi mënul la leena forcer pour ñu change. It's a process ndanka bem fi gëna te ñun ñoo wara make sure in each discussion buñ am ñu boole ko ci. So that is why really I tried by all means to really just include it there.
Well, I have been following so much of your program. And sometimes I just keep saying Jay is biased with the way you put emphasis on women, this, women, that.
Yeah.
I think you get. I mean, you did your quota and then support. I think, like I said earlier on, if you support women, you're supporting a whole generation and the generation to come. So and they should not be. They have to be respected. Just how we expected them to be respected. If the respect is not there, and then we see all this crazy thing going on without accountability, then
it's sad.
And we cannot. I mean, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is our sisters will end up being victims, or our daughters will end up being victims. And for that to be curtailed, we need to stand up now. To make sure that we put that to rest. So I think our society have to stop.
They have a role.
When they identify a perpetrator, let them make sure that the law takes its full force.
Sure.
Then wahi mboka all that does not make sense.
So due to time constraints, we have our last insert. Time is up already. So we'll be taking a look at the TRRC and young people. So, and when we come back, the TRRC report is out. Mar will just tell me how he just sees the entire report and just the way forward. Let's take a look at that, and we'll be right back. So let's just talk about how Yaya Jammeh's activities with your dad has affected really your family and has affected your education as well. And now you're working at the victim center. Must be really emotional for you.
It has been a long ride for myself and my family. Though I would always say that my mom had been a source of support. Without her, we would not have been here, though I was not able to go through university. But thank God I was able to, do some professional courses to help myself together with my brothers as well. Emotionally, it has affected my family, and also in a way that it made my family divided. When I say divided, it's that my dad's side of a family, and my family, we are totally a disconnect. We're a total disconnect.
Okay.
It's been 15 long years. I haven't stepped foot in my village, which is Kanilai, because of the fact that everything that happened, and also being in the forefront of getting justice for myself and other victims. I might be seen as maybe a threat to the extended,
or a betrayal.
Exactly, or a betrayal to my extended side of the family, and I can't go back there because maybe I'm being seen as somebody fighting against my own. But then I think the right thing needs to be done, and then which is getting justice to victims of human rights violations, because we've seen how these gruesome human rights violation has divided our society in terms of families have been divided, lives have been lost. And I think for me, the most important thing is for me to pursue justice.
So we also have Mohammed Sandeng. The story is out there. I can remember on that day when your parents and the other group was out there on the streets. I was a bit younger, and I can remember the tension in the country. Everybody was running away and all of that. So when you knew that your dad stood for justice, first of all, before we get into his death, when you knew your dad stood for justice, stood for change, how did you feel as a young person at the time?
Thank you. Well, I was never really oblivious of my dad's activities. In fact, I, at some point in time, was like a personal secretary to him, so most of his activities were not known, unknown to me. So it wasn't something I totally did not expect, that he would stand for justice. Well, that's what he had done all of his life. So basically, that wasn't what came as a surprise to me.
Okay,
but,
it wasn't a surprise at all.
Not at all, because if you know about the story of my dad, you would find in it that he was arrested sometime in 2014, and the bogus charges in which he got acquitted and discharged for. So, because he had always been an activist, a political activist under UDP, and he had served as National Youth Secretary General, plus another position which he assumed before his death. So that tells you, his position in the political landscape. And so that being the situation, I have not been as totally disconnected from the political situation on the ground. So for that matter, he had always, stood for justice. So it was just a matter of time, and then the thing would have reached its tipping point, and I think that's what happened. But what it did is, funnily, I would have been a part of that April 14 process, but because I had to do other engagements, other family engagements, keep my family safe, by the instructions of my dad. So I wasn't a part of that. But I remember, before he left, he told me that you would have been a part of this, but because you are supposed to take care of your mom and the kids, so you wouldn't be a part of that. So basically, that was why I was exempted from being a part of the protest.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, this is Youth Dialogue Year in Review, and I'm here with Mar Nyang. So Mar, that was just young people who have been victims of former President Yahya Jammeh, and now the TRRC report is out. What do you think about it?
Well, first, I just have to say the government actually worked ahead of our expectation, because I believe the report was tabled a few days before elections, and within, I believe, in a space of a month, they were able to come up and then publish the report. I was actually there when they were, when the Minister of Justice was presenting these reports to the stakeholders, the Victim Center, the UNDP, the UN system, and then also putting it up on that very particular day on their website, which also means there is political will in the
Seems like it.
in the work of the TRRC. So now, where we are reading the report, we are looking at the recommendations, and then also we are also waiting for the government white paper, which is going to tell the government stand on this report. So I think we have to continue working on reading this and then identifying certain key recommendations that have to be in the government white paper, and then start those advocacy before it actually comes out.
And I'm so happy that sexual and gender-based violence, they decided to give it so much prominence, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that also in this transition helps, because in transitional justice, for you to be able to build a progressive society, there has when the truth is established, there has to be justice and reparation to make sure that these things do not happen again. And that's the whole purpose of transitional justice. Once there is there is justice and there is reconciliation and reparation, you will establish a progressive society that will know about their past.
And then we can eventually reconcile. Mar, due to time constraints, unfortunately, we have to go. I'm also thanking you for your support and the work that you do with Gambia Participates.
Thank you for giving me the platform.
Yeah, so viewers, that is all we have for you in the year 2021. So we are going into 2022 in grand style, like you mentioned. It should be the year for Youth Dialogue. So we'll be doing a little bit of rebranding when it comes to our intros and everything. So watch out for that. Looking forward to ensuring that we continue to be consistent as a program. We're very consistent. I can say we're one of the most consistent youth programs in the Gambia. We are inclusive as well. We will try to improve on that. And you know, if you have any suggestions or anything, please send them over. We're so willing to just get them and see how we'll be able to just work towards a better program. It's been almost 5 years on Youth Dialogue, sitting in front of you and doing this. So, you know, looking forward to another exciting year. I'm not saying it might be any different, but we can make it different by the work that we put in. See you in 2021. Bye.
2022.
Oh, see you in 2022. Bye.